The alarm blares at 6 a.m. Another day. My name is Mark. I'm a senior analyst, and honestly, I'm just tired. The first thing I reach for isn't my phone, but my glasses. The world blurs into focus, just like the numbers on my spreadsheets will in an hour. I drag myself to the kitchen. The coffee machine whirs to life, a sound more comforting than any morning greeting. As the dark liquid drips, I stare out the window. The city is waking up, full of energy I just can't seem to find anymore. Remember when I was excited about this job? The thrill of cracking a difficult data set? The satisfaction of presenting a key insight? Now, it just feels like a relentless current, and I'm struggling to keep my head above water. I pull on the same gray suit I wore 2 days ago. Does it matter? No one at the office really looks at each other anymore. We're all just heads down, typing, clicking, surviving. My commute is a blur of faces, all looking as exhausted as I feel. We're all on this hamster wheel together, running towards a finish line that keeps moving. The office is exactly as I left it. The fluorescent lights hum, casting a sterile glow on rows of cubicles. My screensaver, a picture of a beach in Thailand I took years ago, feels like a cruel joke. That was a different Mark, a Mark who had hobbies, who traveled, who laughed without a spreadsheet open in the background. My inbox is already overflowing. Urgent, ASAP, critical. Every email feels like another brick on my shoulders. I dive in, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, regression analysis. The jargon flows effortlessly, but the passion is gone. It's just muscle memory now. Lunch is a sad sandwich at my desk, eaten while reviewing quarterly reports. I scroll through my social media feed. Everyone's posting their highlight reels, promotions, engagements, exotic vacations. I feel a pang of something. Is it jealousy, or just a deep sense of disconnect? I close the app. Comparison is the thief of joy, and I don't have much joy left to spare. The afternoon drags on, a meeting about synergy, another about optimizing workflow. Buzzwords fill the air, but nothing meaningful is said. I nod, I smile, I contribute a prepackaged thought. I'm a good actor. I've had years of practice playing the part of the dedicated senior analyst. My manager, Dave, stops by my desk. Great work on the Q3 projections, Mark. Really top-notch. He claps me on the shoulder. It's meant to be encouraging, but it feels heavy. Top-notch work for what? Another number on a chart that someone will glance at for 5 seconds before moving on. I force a smile. Thanks, Dave. Just doing my part. By 7 p.m., the office starts to empty. I'm still here. There's always one more email to answer, one more data set to clean. They call it dedication. I call it burnout. The lines between work and life have blurred so much, they've disappeared completely. My life is my work, just like my... Finally, I pack up. The city is glittering with lights as I walk to the subway. It looks beautiful from a distance, but up close you see the cracks. My life. I get home, and the silence is deafening. I don't have the energy to cook, so it's leftover pizza from 2 nights ago. I sit on the couch and turn on the TV, but I'm not really watching. My mind is still at the office, replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow's deadlines. I look at the picture on my wall, the one from that hiking trip in the mountains. I remember the feeling of the fresh air, the sense of accomplishment reaching the summit. Where did that person go? This isn't living, it's existing. And I'm realizing that top-notch work isn't worth a bottom-tier life. Something has to change. I don't know what the first step is, but tonight, for the first time in a long time, I'm allowing myself to believe that a different life is possible. Maybe tomorrow, I won't just look at that beach screensaver. Maybe I'll start planning how to get there. The alarm will go off at 6 a.m., But for the first time in forever, I have a flicker of something that isn't dread. It might just be hope. If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. It's okay to feel lost and to want something more. Taking that first step, even just admitting it to yourself, is the hardest part. Thanks for spending a day with me. Take care of yourselves out there. They have a saying, balance is for things that are dead. You don't want a balanced mission. You want a mission with momentum. You don't want a balanced workout. You want a workout that pushes you forward. The goal isn't to stand perfectly still in the middle of the chaos. It's to move through it with purpose. That shift from seeking balance to seeking momentum changes everything. It turns the exhausting, scattered energy of your day into a focused beam. But how? How do you do that when your default setting is overwhelmed? When your first conscious thought or every day is already tied to a notification from your boss? It starts with a single, simple, almost stupid act, and it happens before your feet even touch the floor. Mark sat on the edge of his bed that Saturday morning, his phone in his hand, feeling a deep, familiar kind of tired. It wasn't from lack of sleep. It was from thinking. He'd just spent the last 90 minutes from 6 a.m. until now doing what he called research. His browser was a graveyard of tabs. Here's the surprising fact that changed everything for me. The U.S. Navy did a study on SEAL candidates, the ones going through the brutal Hell Week. They found something counterintuitive. The candidates who spent time before a training evolution, visualizing everything that could go wrong, the icy water, the seizing cramps, the yelling instructors, the feeling of wanting to quit, were 35% more likely to complete the evolution successfully than those who only visualized a perfect, triumphant outcome. Let that sink in. Thinking about failure made them stronger. Why? Because it wasn't hope that got them through the freezing dark. It was a grim, practical familiarity with the struggle. They had already met the enemy in their minds. When the enemy showed up in real life, they just nodded and said, "I know you, let's go." The optimizer avoids this at all costs. The optimizer thinks, if I visualize failure, I might attract it. So they only let themselves picture the pristine finish line, the six-pack abs, the day-in-the-life video. Then, when the first obstacle appears, a sore muscle, a busy week, a moment of doubt, it feels like a personal betrayal. The perfect plan is ruined. And if the plan is ruined, the optimizer thinks, I might as well quit and make a new plan tomorrow. The cycle continues. So what's the way out? What if, instead of building a better cage, you just stepped out of it? What if the first step wasn't about adding another piece of gear or app, but about subtracting a single automatic behavior? What if, before you could be a person who conquers the day, you had to first become a person who could conquer the first 90 seconds of the morning? This is where we find the first of these so-called banned habits. It's not about more. It's about less. It's not about thinking. It's about doing one tiny physical, seemingly insignificant thing that changes the entire trajectory of your nervous system. The SEALs don't start their day with inspiration. They start it with a simple, deliberate act of control, and you can literally do it without moving an inch. The idea felt ridiculous. That was Mark's first thought on Monday, August 4th. He'd heard about this first habit, this intentional grip, and it sounded like something from a weird meditation cult, not a Navy SEAL. Grip the mattress? For 90 seconds? What about his phone? What about checking the overnight numbers from the Singapore team? What about the 7:30 a.m. call prep? But something from the weekend had stuck with him. That image of the hamster in the high-tech cage. He saw himself in that little rodent, running furiously on a wheel of his own making, So, with a groan that fogged in the cool morning air of his bedroom, he decided to try it, just once, to prove it was stupid. 6:04 a.m. The last echo of his alarm faded. The room was in that deep, velvety silence that only exists before the world wakes up. He could hear the distant, lonely whistle of a ferry on Lake Michigan. He pushed the phone away, face down on the nightstand with a soft thud. He looked at his hands, pale in the dim light. Slowly, he leaned forward. He placed both hands flat on the edge of the mattress, right where the fitted sheet tucked under. The fabric was cool and slightly rough under his palms. He curled his fingers under, digging his fingertips into the dense foam underneath. He gripped. Nothing happened. He took a breath. The clock on his nightstand ticked. 6:04:30. "This is absurd," the voice in his head said. It was his own voice, but it had the snarky tone of a cynical friend. "You have real things to do. You're a grown man clutching his bed. This is the most pointless 90 seconds of your life." His left ankle itched, a fierce, demanding itch right on the bone. The urge to reach down and scratch it was overwhelming. It felt like a test. "Just scratch it and start the day properly," the voice coaxed. He tightened his grip. The muscles in his forearms engaged. He could feel the individual fibers of the bedsheet, the tight weave pressing a grid-like pattern into his skin. 6:05 a.m. The itch faded, replaced by a new thought. Did I send the correct file to Elena last night? A bolt of low-grade panic, like a static shock, went through him. His fingers twitched. He almost let go. The pull of the phone was a physical force, a magnet in his chest. He could just peek. One eye. It would take 3 seconds. He could do the grip thing tomorrow. He closed his eyes. Instead of fighting the thought, he did something strange. He let the worry about the file be there. He imagined the worst case. Elena opening the wrong attachment, a confused email chain, a minor delay. He didn't try to push the fear away. He just breathed and kept gripping. He felt the solidity of the bed frame under his hands. This was real. The worry was just a story. The bed was real. He opened his eyes. The quality of light in the room had changed. It wasn't the flat gray of moments ago. A thin, buttery streak of sunlight had found a gap between his buildings and was painting a bright, perfect line across his floor. He hadn't noticed the sun rising. He'd been too busy in the courtroom of his own mind. 6:06 a.m. 90 seconds were up. His fingers uncurled, slow and stiff. He lifted his hands. The deep red imprint of the sheet's weave was etched into his palms, a temporary tattoo of his commitment. He looked at them. For a full 10 seconds, he didn't move for the phone. He just sat. He watched that beam of sunlight. You wake up. The alarm blares. Your brain immediately floods with anxiety. The emails you didn't answer, the meeting you're not ready for, the endless to-do list. Before your feet even touch the floor, you've already lost the day. You reach for your phone, a reflex, ready to absorb the chaos. But what if you didn't? What if for 90 seconds you did something erratically different? Imagine this. He woke up, feeling that familiar dread, but then a calm, clear thought. I need to drink a glass of water, not coffee. Water. It wasn't some life-changing epiphany. It was a simple instruction from his body. He stood up, walked to the kitchen and filled a glass. He drank it all, feeling the cold water travel down, waking him up more than any caffeine jolt ever could. Only then did he pick up his phone. The notifications were all still there, but something had changed. He wasn't just receiving the day like a frantic, fumbled pass. He was choosing to engage with it. Those urgent messages? They were tasks now, not emergencies. He replied to his boss, "I'll have the analysis by 10 a.m." A statement, not an apology. The rest of the morning wasn't perfect. Traffic was still bad. His coffee still got cold, but the center of gravity had shifted. He had started the day with a tiny, concrete win. He proved to himself, for just 90 seconds, that he was in charge. That feeling lingered. This is the exact spot where 95% of people give up. They want a massive transformation, the dramatic before and after story. They don't want the small, simple act. It's too undramatic. It doesn't make for a good social media post. But you, if you've ever tried something this small, even for a moment, you're in the 5% now. You've shown your brain that you can face the anxiety, the pull of the screen, and just breathe. That tiny act of defiance against your autopilot is a crack in the dam. It's a signal to every panicked part of you that says, "I am at the helm." Think about that feeling, that quiet space in your head. That's the birthplace of real momentum. That's where you can make a real decision, not just a reaction. So, one small win changes your morning. It gives you a foothold. But a foothold is only useful if you use it to take the next step, because the day is long and the world is loud. How do you protect that hard-won morning calm when emails, meetings, and distractions are constantly trying to tear it down? The second habit isn't about finding more time. We've all tried that. It doesn't exist. It's about invading the time you already have. It's about planting a flag of focus right in the middle of the mess. And it all starts with one question you have to ask yourself before you open your first work tab. Let's go back to our guy, Mark. It's Wednesday morning. The intentional moment is done. The water is drunk. His mind feels clear, like a clean windshield after a rain. But now he's at his desk, staring at his computer screen, a galaxy of icons and tabs. His to-do list has 14 items, all marked urgent. The morning quiet feels a million miles away, and that old anxiety starts to creep back in. This is the moment. This is where the daily war is won or lost. You have the foothold from a good morning, but now you're facing the overwhelming army of the actual day. It's not enough to start well. You have to proceed well. Mark remembered the second habit, the unblinking assessment. He pulled out a blank index card and a pen, and he asked himself the crucial question. What is the one thing that, if I get it done by noon, will make today feel like a victory? His mind immediately screamed at him, the Q3 report, the budget figures for the 2 p.m. call, answer all those client emails. He wanted to write them all down. A long list feels productive. Right. But the rule was one thing. Just one. He took a breath and closed his eyes. The real answer, the one that twisted in his gut, wasn't the most urgent. It was the most important. It was the task he'd been avoiding for 3 days because it required deep, uninterrupted thought. He opened his eyes and wrote in clear block letters. Draft the proposal narrative for the Portland project. Not start it. Draft it. A complete action. He propped the card up against his monitor, a small paper soldier guarding his focus. Then he did something that felt completely illegal. He closed his email tab. He silenced Slack. He put his phone in a drawer with a decisive thud. The sudden quiet was deafening. For the first hour, it was brutal. His fingers twitched, searching for his phone. He felt phantom vibrations in his leg. His brain kept screaming, "Just check quickly. Something might be on fire." But he'd look at the card, the one thing, and he kept working. Around 10:15 a.m., everything shifted. He was in it. The words were flowing. The outside world faded away. This was the state of pure focus that his 90-second morning ritual had made possible. It felt less like work and more like discovery. This isn't just about managing your time, it's about reclaiming your mind. You started the day with a small act of control. Now you've defined a single, meaningful victory. By focusing on that one thing, you're not just getting work done. You're telling your brain, this is what matters. You are building a fortress of focus, one index card at a time. The chaos can wait. Your victory can't. What's the one thing you can commit to today? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more ways to take back your day. He had a thought, clear and calm. I need to drink a glass of water. Not coffee. Water. It wasn't a dramatic revelation. It was a simple, bodily instruction. He stood up, his feet firm on the floor, and walked to the kitchen. He didn't lurch or stumble. He walked. He filled a glass from the tap, the water shockingly cold. He drank it all, feeling it travel down his throat and settle in his stomach. It felt more alerting than any caffeine jolt. Then, and only then, did he pick up his phone. He turned it on. The screen lit up with the same notifications. But something was different. He wasn't receiving the day anymore like a frantic football pass he had to fumble to catch. He was choosing to engage with it. He looked at the Slack messages, the email question mark. They were tasks now, not emergencies. He typed a reply to his boss. I'll have the analysis on that by 10 a.m. Not an apology, a statement. The morning that followed wasn't magical. Traffic was still bad. His coffee still got cold while he answered an urgent IM, but the center of gravity had shifted. He had started the day with a tiny, concrete win. He had chosen a single action, completed it, and proved to himself that he was in charge of his own hands for 90 seconds. That proof lingered. This is where 95% of people quit. They want the grand transformation. They want the before and after photo, the dramatic story of hitting rock bottom and rising like a phoenix. They don't want the mattress grip revolution. It's too simple, too undramatic. It doesn't make for a good tweet. But you? If you tried it this morning, even for 30 seconds, you're in the 5% now. You have taken operational control of your central nervous system. You have shown your brain that you can face the itchy ankle, the phantom worry, the magnetic pull of the screen, and you can just breathe and grip. That tiny act of defiance against the autopilot is a crack in the dam. It's a signal fired from your conscious mind to every primitive, panicked part of you that says, I am at the helm. I want you to think about that feeling when you finally released your grip. That space, that quiet in your head. That's the birthplace of momentum. That's where a real decision can be made, not a reactive one. Now one grip changes your morning. It's a foothold. But a foothold is only useful if you use it to take the next step. The day is long. The world is loud. Emails pour in. Meetings sprawl. Distractions ping and buzz. That hard-won morning quiet can feel like a distant memory by 10 a.m. So how do you protect it? How do you carry that feeling of deliberate control out of the bedroom and into the chaos of your day? The second habit isn't about finding more time. We've all looked for that, and it doesn't exist. It's about invading the time you already have. It's about planting a flag of focus right in the middle of the mess. And it starts with a single, unblinking question you have to ask yourself before you open your first work tab. Mark sat down at his desk on Wednesday, August the 6th, at 8:02 a.m. The intentional grip was done. The water was drunk. His mind felt clear, a clean windshield after a rain. But now his computer screen stared back at him, a galaxy of icons and tabs. His to-do list app pulsed with 14 items, all color-coded and tagged. urgent. The quiet from his bedroom began to feel very far away. The old familiar anxiety, that feeling of being pulled in 14 directions at once, started to creep back in at the edges. This is the moment. This is where the daily war is won or lost. You have the foothold of a good morning, but now you're facing the overwhelming army of the actual day. It's not enough to just start well. You have to proceed well. Mark remembered the second habit, the unblinking assessment. It sounded serious. He pulled out a single blank index card from a drawer, the kind you'd use for a flashcard. We all know that feeling. It's 2:30 in the afternoon, and the post-lunch fog hits you like a ton of bricks. Your eyes are tired, your focus is gone, and the only thing you can think about is another cup of coffee just to survive the rest of the day. This used to be Mark's reality. He'd push through, fueled by caffeine, making sloppy mistakes and feeling completely drained by the end of it. But then, he discovered a better way. Mark's secret wasn't some complicated productivity hack. It was a simple, powerful habit he called the tactical siesta. And no, it's not a nap. It's a controlled shutdown. He'd set a timer for just 10 minutes, push back from his desk, and rest his head on his arms. He wasn't trying to fall asleep. He was just letting his brain rest, listening to the world around him without engaging. When the timer went off, the thick mental fog had lifted. He felt reset, ready to tackle the rest of his day with renewed clarity. This is just one of 5 habits that completely transformed how he works and lives. These aren't about becoming a robot. They're about becoming the commander of your own life. Think about this. It's 4 p.m., and you get a surprise email from your boss. They need something urgent, something you haven't prepared, and they need it by the end of the day. The old Mark would have panicked. He would have spiraled into a frantic rush, convinced his entire day was ruined. But the new Mark uses a technique called negative visualization. Instead of jumping into a frenzy, he takes 2 minutes to imagine the worst-case scenario. What happens if he rushes to get those numbers? He'll probably make a mistake. Sending flawed data is way worse than asking for more time. So, with that clarity, he calmly drafts a reply. He explains what he can deliver now and proposes a new deadline for the final numbers. The response from his boss: "Perfect, thanks." He didn't let the setback hijack his day. He contained it. He controlled it. The 5 habits are a daily stack, a sequence of deliberate actions to take back control. Number 1 is the grip, to take control of your mind. Number 2 is the unblinking assessment, to take control of your focus. We've already seen number 3, the tactical siesta, to reclaim your energy. And number 4, negative visualization, to manage setbacks. But what about the end of the day? How many of us just shut our laptops and immediately start worrying about tomorrow? That's where habit number 5 comes in, the intentional release. This isn't just about stopping work. It's a ritual to signal to your brain that the workday is officially over. Mark's ritual is simple. He saves his files. He closes his laptop with a firm, final click. He wipes down his desk. He clicks his pen shut 3 times. It's a tiny ceremony, but it's powerful. It's a mental bridge from work life back to personal life. He even has a friend he's doing this with. They send each other a photo of their released workspace. A simple picture that says, "I'm done for the day. I'm free." No long chat, just a silent pact of accountability, and there's real science behind this. A Stanford study found that teams practicing a ritualized debrief, something as simple as this intentional release, switched off from work stress 40% faster. They slept better and had more energy the next day. They weren't just working hard, they were recovering smart. On his whiteboard, Mark doesn't use check marks. He makes 5 small tally marks for each habit he completes. Seeing that line of tallies grow throughout the week tells a powerful story of consistency. It's not about one heroic 18-hour day. The real transformation happens in the quiet accumulation of these small, daily victories. You start moving through your days not like a leaf tossed around in a stream, but like the river itself, with direction, with power, and with a steady, unstoppable flow. You're winning the daily battles. You've found a rhythm. But here's the next question. What happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when this new powerful rhythm just becomes your life? The final piece of the puzzle isn't about just maintaining those habits. It's about understanding what you've truly built and where you get to go with it next. It's about taking this newfound control and using it to design the life you've always wanted. What will you build with your newfound focus and energy? If this idea of taking back control resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. We're going to dive deeper into each of these habits and explore how you can build your own daily stack for a more deliberate, powerful life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.